Good morning, guys. Um, Today is a pretty quiet, quiet morning. I thought to start with, I need to continue my learning on the nix.dev. Uh, Before I start the stream, I just want to say I'm not an expert in Nix. I've always been saying it. I'm learning, and this videos that I do on Nix, it's more about me learning about Nix on live stream. It's not a tutorial, and it's just about me learning. So there'll be some things I don't know. There'll be some uh, mistakes that I'm gonna make, some assumptions, and yeah. I just want to say that this is not it's not a tutorial. It's just for us to learn, and the only way you can get something out of this is also to probably learn alongside me. So it's not just me learning, and also you're not learning alone. Um, yeah. And if you're like me, one of those people who just like to watch people's stream just for the fun of it, welcome. And if you're here to just watch me explain some stuff, welcome too. Alright, so yesterday we stopped that named attribute. So yesterday we stopped that named attribute. What we did was we learned about functions, right? We learned about function in Nix. We learned about how to write a function, and we know that uh, a function consists of one argument called the function argument. Nix only allows one function. Sorry, Nix only allows one argument for a function. If in any case we need two arguments, then we would have to nest the argument. If we nest the argument, then we could have two or more argument in a function. But without a nested argument, we can only have one. We discussed about the types of function arguments that we have. We discussed about the singular argument, the multi-argument, the attribute set argument, the default attribute set argument, and the additional attribute set argument. And to finally end it, we discussed about the named attribute set argument. So those are the types of arguments that we have in function, and we then call the function, meaning we make use of the functions that we wrote. I'm coming. I need to delete something that keeps coming on. Where is that music? There's a particular music that I don't want to listen to. Nice. Okay. So then after we understand the types of arguments in the function, we then try to call the functions that we wrote. Should I do a quick walkthrough of this? Maybe I should. Alright, so let's start with a singular argument, right? A singular argument is how do I explain this? A singular argument is just like this. singular argument. An argument ends in a uh, like a colon, right? So wherever you find a colon in a Nix language code, on its left is the function argument, which is this. Sorry. This is a function argument, and on the right is the function body. So in this case, we have an argument x, and then in the function body, we add in the value of our argument x to y. So this is called a single argument because in this point we only have one argument in there. But then we have a multi-argument, and as we all know, Nix does not allow to more than one argument per function. But if we nest in the function, or if we nest the argument, we can have more than one. So in this case, we have our first argument, and then we have a second argument, and then we have the function body. And then we have the attribute set argument. This is basically a set of arguments. So even though we can only have one argument per function, we could have a set of arguments. Attribute set. In this case, A and B are in the attribute set argument. We could identify the attribute set argument by the use of the curly braces. So we have attribute set argument that contains an argument A and B, and then we have the body summing up the sum of A and B. And then we have the attribute set arguments with a default attribute. As you can see in here, we have A and B. A and B could be any value, right? It could be a string. It could be, well, if it's a string, then we could not sum them together, but it could be any types. All right. So we have so in this case, A and B could be anything. It could be A, it could be B, it could be 1, it could be 5, it could be 10. But Nix language allows us to set a default value to an argument. So for example, A could be any value, but B on the other end has a default value of 0. So if in any case we did not assign a value to B, then B will take in the value of 0. But if we assign a value of B, then this will get override by the value that we assign to B. I'm still going to show an example of how it's done, but I just wanted to explain before that. And then we have the additional attribute. So additional attribute is more of a how do I put it? If we can have like more than one attribute arguments in an attribute set, even without like specifying it. And this could be done using the I don't know what this is called. I forgot, the 3 dots, right? It's just like when you say continuation, right? So we have a argument A, we have argument B, but we did not specify any other one. It could be C, D, E, F. It could be as long as we want. But the fact that we specified that we put in this 3 dot means that we could have like as much as we like. We can define as much as we like. And then we're passing A and we're passing B. If in any case we need to add C, we can also pass in C, even though C is not defined in here. But because we already put 3 dots in, it's gonna accept C. So it could be A plus B plus C, and plus D and plus E, and as much as we like as far as the 3 dots are available. Honestly, one thing I don't really fully understand is the named attribute, because I don't really understand how it works just yet. I mean, I really don't see the difference between this and this, except for the fact that it has this, which I don't really understand like what this could be used for. But let's assume we remove the args and we remove the args in here too, and we only have a b dot 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 a plus b, and we put plus c. It would be the same as this. So the only thing that made this different is because it has an args in here, and the arg is basically used for something I don't really know that I need to find out. But from what I understand, it allows us to append and prepend the name to an attribute set. Well, still, I don't know what that means. I mean, I do see it in like a lot of Nix code, but I still don't know. I'm gonna have to understand what that means. So now we have the arguments and we have the function with the arguments, but we need to also obviously make use of it. If we put in this codes and we run it, we would not get anything. We'll basically get an error because this is a lambda function at this point. It does not have any value. Function in Nix language have no names. We say they're anonymous and call such a function lambda functions. For example, x, argument x plus 1. If we run this, we're going to get lambda because it's an anonymous function and we need to make sure that we parse in the values to the argument x in order for us to see the result. We could also assign a name to a function. So most of what I was doing is I wasn't executing the codes like individually in like because you could obviously execute each of this code individually if you use like Nix repo, right? It would take you into like the Nix environment where you could run the Nix languages. So if I do x and I do x plus 1, you see it returns to me like a lambda function, like a result. It's telling me that x is a string and not a value. Oh, sorry, this is not terminal. And but what if we want to assign a value to it? Oh, we can if you want to, but we could only do that in like, well, let's try. Sorry, before we try that, let's try. I'm missing out some points. So it says, as with any other value, a function could be assigned to a name. So we could assign a name to this particular function if we want to. So then we could use it in our code. Just like you're assigning a variable to a value or a variable to a function or something like that. So we could say f, or we could just say, you say assignment equals to x, x plus 1. Oh my, what's going on? Okay, so I think I did not write that well. Like I said, I don't know. Shit. So we have, let's say f equals to x, then we have x plus 1, and then we have in, and then we have f. Also, it executes this like, wow, that's weird. And then we close that off, and then we say in, and then we say f. As you can see, we get the same result because we haven't assigned a value to x. So now we know that we could assign a name to a function, and we know that we could assign. We know that we need to assign a value to an argument in order for us to get the result. So let's assume we want to assign a value to this function, which is basically the same as this function. But in this case, you can see that we pass in the value of 1 after we've defined the argument. After we've defined the function, we pass in the value of 1. This means this 1 is going to be the value that gets passed into the argument x. So if you want to do that again, we could run the same command, but in this case, we pass in the value of 2. So we're saying the x is 2. So it'd be 2 plus 1, and we get 3. But let's make it more human, kind of like let's make it more simple, or a real life use case or something. So if we say let, and we say what's my name, sorry, what's your name, sorry, it's a stream. If we say let books, no, let's like number of books equals to okay, so books, we parse an argument of books, and we do book, you say book plus 3, right? And then we close that off, and then we say in books, sorry, in, we've already defined books inside of the let function, or let param, or I don't know, I forgot what let is used for, but let is like a way to pass in, it lets you pass in like a name to a value, like when you have a variable and then you need to pass in like a value to the variable, something like that. Like when you have const in like JavaScript, like const, and then you have like, you know, what const is or whatever that is. So let allows you to basically do the same thing, right? So yeah, so we already defined number of books, and then we're parsing book as an argument, and then we are going to add the number of books that we parsed in with the number 3. So now we've done that. So in, we're just going to say number of books plus, sorry, number of books, and then we need to pass in the number of book. So we can just say 5, right? And then you can see it says 8. So what it does is it gets the number of book that we parse in, which is 5, and then it gets the number of book that we parse in, which is 5, and it adds the number of book with sorry, I don't think I'm explaining that well. So we pass in the number of book, which is 5, and then it adds the number of book that we parse in to 3, which makes us have 8. So the number of book that we parse in here is just a like variable name to hold the value of the number of books. It feels tricky, it feels weird, but I don't know if you understand. One thing I realized with Nix language is it's not really like, I mean, maybe because I'm not too good at like explaining like concept problem in like plain English, but it's something that comes with like practice. Like you have to like see, you know, like, oh, okay, I understand now what that does. You know, it's something like that, right? It does make sense to me, like looking at this, but like me trying to do it with the number of books just get very confusing. Yeah, my bad. Okay, so so yeah, we already make use of that function. that's a single function actually that we just make use of. Number of books plus one. So in terms of like multi-argument via nesting, we have two arguments, but they're nested arguments, and this is we adding both of them together. I have an example in here. So the function takes in one argument, but if we want multiple arguments, we can use the nested function. So I define a name to basically hold the value of the to basically hold the function. So it's called multi-argument function, and I pass in x, which is the first argument. I pass in y, which is the second argument, and we sum up x plus y. If you look at it this way, x doesn't have a value yet, and y doesn't have a value. They're like parameters, right? We need to pass in a value to them before they get, before they get added up. So this function, this function is just the same thing as this, right? X, which is the first argument, and y, which is second argument. But in this case, you can see that they are nested together. Like x is separate from y. They're like a different nested section, right? In order to fully understand, because this could be very confusing because it was for me, I had to create another bracket. So you can see we have the first bracket that has x in it, right? And then we have another bracket that has y in it. So it's like we separate the two arguments in order for us to actually make them work. And I made use of this argument in my code. So let me look for it. I think it was the multi-argument. I think it was where was that? I made use of it somewhere. Single argument. Yep, multi-argument. So this is it. Multi-argument takes in x and y as argument, right? So my x is 1 and my y is 3, because that's what passed in. I passed in 1 as my x and I passed in y as my 3. So it takes in 1 and 3 and then it sums all of them up together, which gives us the value of 4. So, and the same goes with attribute set arguments. We have an attribute set with a value with an argument a and argument b, and then we will pass in the value to a and we would pass in the value to b, and the result would be a plus b, which would be whatever the value you pass in is. If you want to see how the result for these particular attributes as arguments comes out, well, let's do that. But before that, let me show you mine. So this is my attribute set argument. I have a, I have b. It's exactly the same as this, but because I'm using like a formatter or a linter, it basically just formats it this way for me. But you can see like it's the same thing. We have a and we have b, and then we're summing up a and b. In this case, we don't have a value yet for a and b, but if we do what is I want to do again, I could just use this one. Sorry, I need to. All right. Okay. Sorry, I want to go into the project. Alright, so I'm inside of the project now, so I'm going to run the file, and let's look for this. So we have attribute set argument function, which is the same thing as this, right? And let's look for it. Attribute set arguments. You could see the value for attribute argument is basically 3, which is the same thing as this, but it's the only difference it's in attribute set. And we have default value attribute where we have a, b, and the default attribute of 0. In this case, if a is 10 and we do not assign a value to b, then the result for a plus b would be 10 plus 0, which would be 10. But if we assign a value of, let's say, 10 to b, then it would be 10 plus 10. The 0 would not take effect because in this case we have a value assigned to b. So yeah, that's basically it for the function. So today I plan to move on to something called the function library. That's our plan today. So I will not be talking too much about the function library because I only know a little bit. I've been using it in my nix.os, but I wouldn't say I'm expert at it just yet. I'm still trying to learn and understand. So I'm going to just read through it, try to make use of some of the functions, and if I basically get into like a moment, that moment when you're like, oh yeah, now I know what this does, or then I would um, I would explain. So yeah, that's all for that, and let's get to it. So in terms of the built-in function, I'm thinking like, should I continue using this for, because like the entire learning from like the start of the next language section, which is this, I've been using this one file for it because I need to, because then I intentionally do that because I don't want to have like different file for each of the functions, and then in order to challenge myself later on, I plan to modularize each of them just to practice my Nix skills that way. So I'd rather have them in one file for now, and then later just modularize them with whatever it is I learned from the nix.dev. So I'd say let's bar cards. So I'd say yeah, let's get to it. Let's see, if it gets too clumsy, which I think it will, I will just move to a new file. But for now, let's just continue using the file. Alright, so we also, no, sorry, let's start. Nix comes with many functions that are built into the language. They are implemented in C++ as part of the Nix language interpreter. Interesting. This manual lists all built-in functions and shows how to use them. Well, let's get the manual, shall we? These functions are available in the built-in constant. For example, built-in to string. Oh, we have lambda function, we have built-in functions. I think I might just. Oh, let's leave that. Well, let's create a new file for this. A new like. Let's call it functions. Let's call it functions. Let's have a readme in it. What's going on with me? Nix.dev. Oh my, come on, you of him. I'm writing it in my own like words, like I would actually, I would say it, because that way then when I read it, I understand that okay, this is what it's trying to do. do you run a function? So I understand you could do this. So you could echo into a file.nix file, yes, and then you have a default.nix file that reads the file.nix file, yes. So what I'm trying to do is I don't just want to put it in plain like 1 + 2 in a file.nix file. I want to put it in like a actual nix, like syntax, nix structured format. So with everything, right? Okay, we could do it this way. I used to think like if you want to use like a let and an in, you have to actually specify like you have to like add arguments to the top. You don't necessarily need to. Look at that. This is basically the same thing as what was done in here. Or maybe I didn't do it. Yeah, basically I have a default file.nix file, but then I have a default.nix file that takes in the file. Oh, I actually do not. Interesting. Well, how about we create one for interesting. So we created a import a default.nix file for the previous code we've been writing the past few days, and we import actually we need to import the file, not the default. We import the file.nix. So instead of running the like file.nix, we're just gonna run like we did something like this, JSON, and then we parse in like a file.nix, right? So what if we don't need to pass in the file.nix? Since we already have like a default.nix file, I'm assuming it should just like pick up. Okay, so let's, because what I was thinking is like it would just like pick up the default.nix file and then evaluate the default.nix. Where am I there? Okay. Next eval JSON F. I don't want to pass in like the file.nix. I want it to like automatically pick up like the JSON. Hmm. Hmm. When you evaluate the default.nix file, you get the part. You get like the printed version of it. You don't really get like the results to the evaluation of the file that you import, which is weird. But I think because by default.nix file is like uh, it's like not meant to be evaluated. It is though, but like don't really know why it's not do that. I'm so dumb. If we pass in this will get evaluated like swiftly, like no stress. But if we parse in a default.nix file, I would not do that. But then if we delete the file.nix, maybe like nix instantiate could do something different if we did like nix. So what we're just gonna do is we are going to like avoid the default.nix for now. Like we know the default.nix file with let's just do nix eval files. command. I trying to remember a command that I. Let's take a break. I do understand how import works, but I'm just like a bit confused about how nix instantiate and nix eval, both of them like execute the expressions. Like how do they evaluate the expressions? Because what I know is when you pass in the default.nix file, the imported files that you have in the input in the default.nix file gets evaluated. But in my case, I have the default.nix file passed in, and then if I do like nix eval and sorry, and I do nix instantiate strict, this would just like go straight to evaluate the default.nix file. It would check if the default.nix file is in the nix directory and it's in the directory, correct directory, and if it is, it would evaluate that, and then you get the result of the expressions, right? But when I do this, I get the part instead of the actual value to the file that I import. So my thought is something is wrong somewhere. Maybe because I am not structuring the imports the right way, or maybe I'm not supposed to use like nix instantiate. But then when I try nix um, evaluate, right, and I parse in the file and I parse in the default.nix, right, I got the same thing that I got with the nix instantiate. So my thought is I'm making like a big mistake. Maybe I'm not like structuring the default.nix file the right way. So that's what I need to know. But when I get back, would do that. I need to use the toilet real quick. Right, we're just gonna leave this. Okay. Yeah, we're back. We back. All right. So let's try and do this. All right. I want to know if this is right. When I know it is, but I think I'm missing out on something. For some reason, when I evaluate this, I'm getting a different result. Let's consult. Okay. So this, I understand what I'm doing now. So what I was doing is I was like what I'm doing now is I'm assigning a key and I'm assigning a value to the key. All right, it's a key value pair, right? This is a name imports and then this is a part. So it's not really going to evaluate like this file.nix file. It's not going to evaluate. It's just going to print out the part to the file, which is no, which is wrong. So this is the kind of like wrong way, and I should not be doing this. Huh. So what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to actually like import. So let's say I remove this, right? I just do this. Oh man, no. Let's say I do this. But when I do this, it keeps asking for hmm. So this is what it wants me to do. Like I'm not supposed to wrap it inside of curly braces. Can I do that also? So that does not work because when I do, then it would expect me to, parse in some other stuff. Okay, interesting. So this should work now. It did work. Interesting. We could also wrap it inside of our curly braces, but then if we do, the input has to be the value to the key instead. Let's try that. Let's give it a name. Let's say uh, it might fall. Hmm, interesting. So we could do this. It's kind of stupid of me what I did before. I was I should have known. I don't know. Probably because I blame myself for it. Actually, it's so stupid of me. I should not have done that. Obviously, I have a import in, and I have a. I think the main reason why I did that is because I was kind of trying to. I think it was a picture of something I had in my head because of my. Um, if you look at my. Yeah, so this is what's going on. So if you look at this, so I was trying to do what I would normally do, but then I forget that this is an attribute set, right? Which means that it basically would need to contain like more than it could contain like uh more than one uh files or file parts to evaluate. So that was what I was thinking. I completely forget the fact that you need to that then that would involve you having uh like a what's this called? Like an array of elements, right? So what I was doing was this. Alright, I was doing this. So this means that the import equals to the file. So then obviously I'm going to get the parts to the file because I'm not re-evaluating anything. I am just assigning the value of the parts of the file to import. So when I run the default.nix file, I get the file part instead of the evaluation to the expression in the file. So let's assume we could do this. Let's make it an attribute set, and let's just do. Oh, you're in. Even then, this one does not work. because they're both two different things. I think there is a mechanism in place that deconstructs this and then runs the file and then evaluate the expressions and all that stuff. Or however, this is just the language. I think that's what's going on. There's something else going on within this. When you run this, when you structure it this way, than when you do it this way. So I think that was what I was having in mind, and now it's pretty clear to me. Oh, mm. So my brain is a bit fuzzy. I keep repeating this particular paragraph again and again. Let me have a function in the file.nix, and we input the file.nix. We could parse in the value of x after. Hmm. It's so weird. I know where the issue is coming from. It's just my fault. So. I don't want to do this. I want X to be Let me see. Interesting. We could actually do that. So it would be like a function fixed magnitude x. Then we will not need this. The tests is in y. Interesting. Wow, I didn't. Wow, this is mind blowing. So then this could be used like outside of the passing an argument outside of a function. I think we're gonna end the effort today. Um, yeah, this is a pretty function library is a pretty broad like topics. I don't want to rush it if that makes sense. Like I'm trying to deep dive into why some things are in a certain way, and I'm trying to see like the bigger picture, right? Because even though it's been explained like in a very short form in here, there's a lot to it. I think if I want to deep dive into like the built-in libraries, as you can see, it's a very big documentation. Like it's pretty kind of like easy to understand if you want to. You just have to practice with it. But I feel like it's very important to understand how the basic stuff works, like the imports, and obviously these that I just figured out today. You can pass in mixed arguments outside of a function, right? So I think it's very like important that I need this. I think it's very important that I deep dive into this. Then I get to understand like how things work and why. Yeah, so thank you so much guys for today. We didn't really do much actually, even though it's a long stream. We're mostly like working with imports. We're trying to understand how import works within Nix, and we also trying to. We didn't do much with like the built-in libraries, but next next stream, or we might go into the built-in libraries and try and like maybe practice with like a few of the built-in functions, built-in library functions, and then we did imports, and we didn't get to do lib. Like I said, this section is like a very broad section. Like you actually need to like the function library, the very broad one. Like we actually need to understand like okay how things have been done before we could say okay yeah we know how it's been done. We need to deep dive into it because we only get like a brief like overview of the entire thing, right? Which is good for like a quick understanding, but my aim is to like like very well understand what's going on. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and next stream we're gonna continue with PKG Deep, or we might explore the built-in libraries, built-in functions. So yep, have a good day and happy learning.